All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Black Techies podcast, where Black culture intersects with technology. I'm your host, Herbert Seward III, and this is pretty special for me because these three interviews I'm doing today don't necessarily have a lot to do with technology per se. They do, but they don't. But they have a lot to do with HBCU culture and a culture that we're all connected to. Before I introduce our guest here, we are collectively part of a book anthology about HBCU marching band culture. And this has been sponsored by the HBCU Experience folks, the HBCU Experience Movement, LLC. And the book that's about to come out is called the HBCU Experience HBCU Band Alumni Edition. And essentially, it's the first of its kind, and it's an anthology of experiences about the HBCU band culture and experience. Before we go any further, the person that you see on your screen right now should look familiar to you. For the folks that follow the podcast, if you don't follow the podcast, this guy is pretty special because he is the initial founder of the Black Techies. I wouldn't be a host of the Black Techies without this dude. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. David Matthews. And Dave, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, first of all, I thank you for having me on here. It's somewhat coming full circle, as you said.
Circle.
As many of you who are watching this know, I helped start the Black Techies 4 years ago, something like that. And so now it's really kind of a pleasure to be on here and to be on the other side of the interview table, I guess. But yeah, my name is David. I'm originally from Atlanta. Grew up there. Went to Tennessee State University, obviously. That's what this is all about, right? For undergrad, marched in the aristocratic bands. After that, did grad school at North Carolina A&T. If you see behind me, you can see 2 pennants here for that. And right now, I'm living in the shadow of DC in Northern Virginia with my family. And yeah, I'm not a complicated person, but I'm doing the whole IT thing here. So yeah, I in addition to all of that, I write tech articles on the side for a website called TechSpot. And I'm also a budding content creator. Well, we might talk about that later on, but yeah, I'm trying to somewhat do it all, but we'll see how that goes.
Bet, man. Yeah. For those folks out there, all your Black content creators that are tuning in to our podcast, thank you. Continue to tune in. We need those views, so pass the word. And I guess the thing about this podcast, that's this particular episode that's really special for me, like Dave said, this is full circle. We probably wouldn't have crossed paths without the band culture that we're talking about right now. Dave marched for the aristocratic bands for Tennessee State, and essentially I marched for Alabama State, and we probably wouldn't have even crossed paths without being part of the same community. That came with the fifth quarter. And on the next interview that's coming up after this one, we'll probably touch a little bit more about that in depth. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, Dave, man, is why did you choose Tennessee State University?
So, fun fact, Tennessee State was not my first choice. Actually, FAMU was my first choice, Florida A&M. And that's probably because the high school I went to, Southwest DeKalb, has a heavy FAMU influence. But I also went there because I know that TSU has at least at the time had an excellent engineering program, right? And I majored in computer science, which was underneath the engineering department. So I knew that if I went to TSU, I would have an excellent education in computer science. I had seen TSU before because they played FAMU every year at the Atlanta Classic. So since I'm from Atlanta, obviously I went to the games and I saw the two bands there, and so I was able to kind of get exposure to TSU. That and I also got a partial scholarship, so that also helped. Money also always
Yes, sir.
helps, right? But no, really, I really enjoyed my time there, and um, I think that I don't regret my choice at all. I'm sorry, FAMU folks, but I don't regret my choice at all. Big blue to the day I die, right? But but yeah, they have an excellent computer science program, engineering program, and obviously the greatest band in the world. But but uh, I know. You all, Herb is an Alabama State graduate. I'm sure you all will hear about his own journey in his own interviews. But this is about me. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's
yeah,
basically why I went.
yeah. And for the folks that are watching, we are both contributing authors to this anthology project. So, like I said, this is really special for myself, for Dave, and for the folks that are part of this project, because this tells our story. And essentially, um, if you've ever been, if you've ever seen an HBCU band program in person, up close and personal, you know that there's a lot of work that goes into being a part of these ensembles. And the book in itself is going to really detail that in terms of the experiences that are being shared by the folks that are writing. And without giving away too much, Dave, tell me a little bit more about what people can expect from you in your experiences in the book.
Yeah, so obviously I'm not going to spoil the entire chapter, but just so we were asked to write about our experiences in the band and how it shaped our lives now. And so, I mean, I can tell you that most people who know me know that despite me starting the Black Techies and doing all the content creation, I'm actually a very shy person. I'm an introverted person. I don't normally, I can be in a room by myself and I'm happy, right? And so but because of that, I'm not usually the person that is chosen for like leadership positions. I'm not like that go-to person where, yeah, let's use David because he has a whole bunch of leadership potential. So my chapter in the book kind of details like why, how being in the aristocratic bands built, kind of helped mold and shape those leadership qualities that I now have, and I've been able to use in my current job. I'm a team lead right now, over two teams. Actually, I have two teams under me of contractors, and being able to lead grown people, being a section leader in college is really helped me to kind of be leaders over very highly trained and highly specialized contractors who, they're smarter than me, right? And yet I'm the one that's supposed to lead them. So, that's kind of a rough estimate of what my chapter is kind of about. Like, how did TSU kind of mold those leadership experiences so that I can, use them right now in what I'm doing.
That's good. That's good stuff, man. And I mean, I think as people, when people see the book and read it, they're going to get a real good idea of how those experiences, those band experiences, that camaraderie, that esprit de corps that is generated there, translates to the real world and translates to your real world experiences. Um, I think there's one other question. Well, there are a couple of questions we got to get through, and like I said, this is new to me, so we're gonna continue. I'm going to continue to kind of, work my way through this. Why do you think HBCUs and the HBCU experience is so important?
Oh man, that's seeing as how we just came off the conviction of what's his name, Derek Chauvin, and how that that whole thing, uh, and I think we're really seeing how Black lives matter, and if Black lives matter, then they have to matter in all arenas, and especially education, right? For those who don't know, HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, were started largely in part because we couldn't go to the predominantly white colleges and universities, right? And so we were like, well, okay, well, if we can't go to those colleges, we'll just make our own. And so we did. Um, and because of that, now you have this whole rich history of just Black academia, Black, obviously, music. And obviously, a lot of American music is built upon, jazz and the blues and all that came from Black people, right? And so HBCUs really give you that ability to kind of experience all of Black culture, right? You get a chance to see the culmination of years of where we started in Africa and all of those traditions, and now you're bringing those traditions up through slavery, through Jim Crow, all of those traditions that came as a result of that, and now you have HBCUs that kind of embody all of that. And so not and we got to say this in our past podcast. If you go to a predominantly white school, there's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is that at an HBCU, you kind of get like a kind of a whole of life kind of experience. And so whether it's the food or whether it's football games, whether it's there's nothing like an HBCU homecoming. There is nothing like it.
Agreed.
And as our friends at A&T will tell you, they have the best homecoming in the world, right? And so
I have yet to go to a GHOE yet.
oh
And
man,
I'm chomping at the bit to get to one. So
right. So I mean, when you see the camaraderie and you see the everything that just goes on, the pageantry that goes along with football games, with homecoming, with uh Greek-led organizations. I mean, you can't think of HBCUs without thinking about the Divine Nine, right? So just all of that just kind of condenses all of Black culture into one thing, and you get to see everything. And of course, along the way, you get a great education that lasts you your entire life.
yeah, definitely. So how would you say that your experience in the band and your greater overall experience at HBCUs in general translates to what you do today? Well, tell us what you're doing now in terms of your projects and in terms of your professional life and how that stuff translates.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I told you, I'd have to kill you. I'm just kidding. No, but well, like I said, right now I'm a team lead. By trade, I'm a network engineer. I'm a network guy, tech guy. And so let's see. As far as my experience in the band, one of the things that a lot of people might not know, unless you went through TSU, you might not know this, but it's kind of an unspoken rule that when you're a freshman, you're not allowed to say the word aristocrat, but until a homecoming. And that the only reason we do that is because you kind of have to kind of earn your place in the band, right? You can't really call yourself an aristocrat unless you can march the correct style, play the correct style well, and be as angel and do just do everything that comes with being in an HBCU band. And so because you kind of have to earn that, because you have to work hard at it. That sense of can't think of the term right now, but it kind of instills in you that work ethic. That's the word, work ethic, right? It gives you that certain work ethic that because I did that work ethic in the band, and because TSU instilled that work ethic to always work hard, to practice every day, right? And some of the songs we play ain't easy rather, even for a marching band. That translates into the real world where now, as a network engineer, for example, right? I'm a Cisco certified network professional. I had to work at that. Like, no one told me to get that CCNP. I on my own free will went and got a CCNP, but that resolve to do better, that resolve to practice and be better at my craft, at my skill as a network person, that came from being in the band. That came from those long practices to 1 a.m. in the morning, getting ready for the Southern Heritage Classic against Jackson State. Like those are the kind of things that translated into what I do now. And I can honestly say that if I didn't go through that, if I didn't go through those long practices, if I wasn't pushed by our band directors to memorize the music and all that kind of stuff, I wouldn't have that drive now. At least I don't think I would.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important point for folks that are following the stream and that follow culture, is that if you're connected, if you've performed for an HBCU marching band, a lot of those experiences are shared experiences. The discipline, the esprit de corps, the time management skills that it takes to balance practice and schoolwork and
Oh yeah.
everything else in between. That comes with the territory, and it translates, because I know, just listening to you, there are a lot of my own experiences are just like that. When I went to Alabama State and became, during my process of becoming a mighty marching hornet, everything from them pre-drill practices at the beginning of the season, starting at 4 a.m. and ending at like 10, to the end of the season, preparing for big games and stuff. All of that stuff translates, because that, like you said, that work ethic, translates. And it's something that I think the book is going to really communicate to people that are outside of the culture. One other thing, man, the Southern Heritage Classic, tell me about it.
It's funny. So you mentioned that I have a coworker that went to Jackson State, and like I get on her like every day about it. Like, you chose the wrong school. No, but it's a friendly rivalry. It's in Memphis, Tennessee, somewhere in September at the Liberty Bowl, and it's oh my gosh, I remember the first time I went to the Southern Heritage as a freshman, way back 2003. It rained. I mean, I believe that was the year that it was just pouring down rain, and so like. You have it, normally you would think, oh, we're not going to go on the field. It's too raining. No. So both of us went on the field and performed the full halftime show while it's pouring down raining. And I played the clarinet, right? And for all the woodwind players out there, rain is our like kryptonite. The pads just fall off, right? The little pads on the keys. Yeah, we hate rain, but we did it anyway, right? And it was fun. That was probably the most fun I've ever had at a performance. And it was also my first time seeing Jackson State, and so it was and the SWAC in general. I had never seen SWAC bands before, and so that was an eye-opening experience to experience the SWAC for the first time. But yeah, and it was I gotta say that was an excellent opportunity to kind of just see just everything and everything I just talked about, the pageantry, the esprit de corps that you said, like all of that just in full presentation.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, man, that's always culture shock when you first are immersed in the culture, regardless of what band program you're part of. And I think there's some inherent differences depending on where you are geographically also. But some of those shared experiences are shared experiences. I felt the same way the first time I saw Southern University live. And, although, for those that are listening, we're not going to talk about that experience. But, I mean, from that to being part of the Magic City Classic to, being able to see those specific classics and milestone matchups as a fan after matriculating through school says a lot. And I mean, it's a lifelong connection to the culture. And I think, you can attest to it. You probably, stay in contact with just, a ton of people that you knew from the aristocratic bands. You make lifelong friends there. So that's something that really drives that experience. Speaking of which, do you have any involvement with the AOB right now, or do you keep in contact with folks, or what's the deal?
So not directly. I mean, I'm still. I'm a part of a few Facebook groups. Of course, I follow the band on social media and all that kind of stuff. So I'm still a fan of my own school. But that said, they actually, I think they actually have they've been putting out these like care packages or whatever. They have a bunch of merch and stuff in there. So I think I might have to get some, because I've seen a few screens or a few people share pictures of the merch, and I was like, oh, I need to get some of that. Let me but honestly, I've seen the band grow so much. I mean, the current director of bands, Dr. Reginald McDonald, he's actually part of what got me there, because he used to be the band director at my high school. And so and around, I think 2001, I want to say, he left and went to TSU as an associate band director, and that's partly what got me up there. He partly was the one that got me up there, and I've just seen the positive change that the band has made. I mean, they've grown so much, and they've been able to utilize social media so well to kind of promote their brand and promote TSU as a whole.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think while this is a technology podcast by nature, so we'd be remiss not to touch on the technology part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And HBCU marching bands are an excellent example of how technology has impacted viewership, has impacted interactions with fans, and a multitude of things. I think some of the interviews that you'll see coming up will express that in as vivid a method as possible. Technology is at the forefront of HBCU marching bands these days, whether it's media teams, whether it's innovations like using drones to get better views of formations and all sorts of things. Things that we wouldn't even thought about 20 or 30 years ago.
Or even had the capability.
Or had the capability in terms of the craft. So this is a pretty exciting type of intersection that we don't really get a chance to talk about too much on the Black Techies. I know the Black Techies essentially is HBCU friendly, as always has been. The founding of the Black Techies, Dave can attest to. All of us are HBCU products and HBCU supporters. So this, touches home in a lot of ways. And the fact that I get to interview my homie doing it is dope. If there are anything before we close this program out, what would you like to lead the audience in terms of your experiences and in terms of your projects going forward? Talk about some of the, where we can find you at, what you're engaged in, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. So, I think I alluded to earlier, I'm a budding content creator. Some of you all may have seen my live streams. I like to stream games. I've done Twitch, I've done Facebook gaming, but actually I'm going to focus all of my efforts on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Packet Stiller. Fun fact, it's called Packet Stiller because in grad school, I majored in computer science, but my focus was on information assurance, and my graduate thesis was on how to hack Wi-Fi and how to defend against it, basically. And so, computer packets, Packet Stiller. If you're an IT guy, you get it. If you don't, sorry. But but yeah. So that's my gaming persona is Packet Stiller. So if you ever want to follow me, Twitter at Packet Stiller, YouTube Packet Stiller. Just search for Packet Stiller. I'm like the only one on the internet, which is why I chose it, because it makes me unique. Other than that, like I said, I also write for a tech blog called TechSpot, techspot.com, and which is it's not necessarily like CNET or like Engadget level, but we're like right underneath there. Like I get like hundreds of thousands of views on my articles. So it's pretty cool. Trying to see what else. Oh, well, this is somewhat of a personal issue, but so a lot of you all know that my wife and I are going through the adoption process, and we're trying to adopt a little one. So I would ask if for all the saints out there, pray for us. And just if you want to support us, you can just contact me through social media if you want to talk more about that. But yeah, adoption, content creation, those are kind of the major things that are going on in my life at the moment. So just trying to consolidate all of that and just make sure I do a good job, do well. I want to put out good content, not just a bunch of content. I want to put out content that people want to come back and see. Like the Black Techies, right? Had to put that plug in there.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Appreciate it. Help us out. Yeah, those of y'all that are listening and watching, we need your views. Please help us out. Help a brother out. Help the gang out. And I gotta say, this has been a pleasure to be able to interview Dave in this fashion. Normally, we're doing the interview as a group, and since Dave has kind of gone on to do his own solo projects, and I've inherited the Black Techies, you know, getting a chance to interview my boy like this is kind of full circle. So this is like really, really dope.
It really is, though.
It
It
really
surprised
is.
me when they asked me to interview with the Black Techies. I'm like, huh.
Yeah. It's like, how's that gonna work? You know, but in closing, for those of you guys that are out there watching, support the book. We are absolutely positively excited about its release. It's going to be released on April 27th on Amazon. And you've got 36 contributing authors to this book. 36 individual and unique experiences concerning HBCU band culture, and you know, a lot of insight and a lot of how this culture is a center point for a lot of the HBCU experience in general. So when you get the opportunity, when it drops, you know, we're going to be advertising it. You know, the HBCU Experience Movement will have more information on their Instagram and other social media platforms on you know, when it drops. Follow us. We'll be mentioning this more on the Black Techies as well. And, you know, we're really excited about the project. So in closing, Thank you, Dave. Thank you for being on, man. Like I said, this was dope to be able to interview you like this. And for the folks that are watching, the Black Techies podcast and the core crew in its entirety will be back in short order. Look for podcast episodes at least once or twice every month going forward. And we're going to be talking about everything under the sun. We got a lot of stuff to catch up on. So, yeah, tune in. Thank you again. Thank you for watching the Black Techies. Hail Wakanda.
Hail Wakanda. And that never gets old.
It never does.